welcome to this Connect Online session where we're looking at transforming industries through the future of business communications today. I'm Gareth Johns, I lead vertical solutions at RingCentral EMEA, and I have the privilege of being your host for the next 20 minutes or so. Now, all organisations have been impacted by the pandemic in the last year, with many receiving lots of news coverage, be that the likes of travel and hospitality, which have been really badly affected, through to schools and care homes in the NHS, where there's been an increased awareness of the demands of frontline workers. Now, when thinking about frontline workers, there's an area that's often overlooked, partly because they're almost taken for granted until you need them, and also that they're not necessarily considered as being on the front line, and that's our local authorities, our local councils. Now, local authorities have been striving to meet the needs of their citizens whilst transforming and modernising, and in the past year, doing this under the same constraints as the rest of the UK. And like a lot of other sectors and organisations, it's driven innovation and enabled transformation to happen more quickly than may have happened otherwise. I'm pleased to welcome Joe Brackenborough from Thanet District Council as we discuss and explore how local government has and is being transformed. Joe, thank you for joining us at Connect Online, and could I firstly ask, could you outline your role at Thanet District Council, please?
I'm Joe Brackenborough. I'm the Digital Transformation Manager for Thanet District Council, and my role is quite broad, but basically I'm in charge of digital transformation and digital training across the council, central administration of corporate systems, which includes RingCentral, Okta and Google Workspace, digital customer experience, and we have a new digital customer experience manager as well on that, and that's all about engaging with online forms, our website and other digital methods with our customers. I do GIS, which is graphical information systems, and I'm also in charge of the LLPG, which is the local land and property gazetteer, corporate monitoring reporting, and finally master data management for the council's data warehouse.
Phew, okay, so actually a really wide portfolio of responsibility there. As you were going through, I was kind of counting up the number of things, and obviously you kind of got over one hand. Okay, let's focus a little bit on Thanet for the moment, and let's help to set the scene. So for those people who don't know, just a simple thing, where in the country is Thanet, and how big is Thanet, and actually what is Thanet known for, and what should we really know about Thanet?
Thanet is in the southeast of England, in Kent, and it's the east of Kent. We're famous for our Margate seaside holidays, and we are the only place with a royal harbour, which is in Ramsgate. We have 19 miles of stunning coastline, and we're the closest, and some say the best, sandy beaches closest to the capital. So we're about an hour away by train to London, and we serve around 141,000 people in our area, and our council is kind of, as all local councils, quite responsible for a key area of different services.
So, Joe, I think as you did your introduction, you talked about your title being the Digital Transformation Manager, and what that does do is it immediately it conveys that there is commitment within the council to do exactly that, to drive transformation through the use of digital tools and services. Now, I wonder if you could just paint the picture for us and talk to us about what are those key pillars of your digital strategy.
At the start of our journey, and so 3 years ago when I joined the council, I decided to come up with kind of 5 pillars or 5 principles which we kind of have to live our digital lives and strategy with. So what underpins our digital strategy is number 1, customer-led. So that's being open, transparent with our customers, and actually understanding what our customers want and not what we think they want, because that's key. I think number 2 is cloud first and moving to technology that works for us and isn't hard work or works against us. Number 3 is reuse and improve. So it's about reusing the different processes and the different software and different technologies that we have to improve the way we work for our customers. Increase efficiency is number 4, which is about us increasing our efficiency in processes to deal with our customers more effectively and to obviously save money. And the last one is digital is for everyone. And that's meaning, our customers and our staff members, and kind of helping people get access to technology regardless of their age or their technical ability or the cost of the technology, and basically allowing our customers to be able to use our services in the way that they want to, and also our staff using technology to the best of its ability as well.
I really like those 5 pillars, and particularly the last one, which I think is absolutely brilliant in terms of digital is for everyone. Making sure that there are no barriers for people to be able to access the services and use them. So I really kind of applaud that one. Now, kind of going back to the beginning almost of those, I'd like to get into the detail of some of them and just explore a little bit more, and to understand, as we do, how COVID and the council's response to the pandemic may have changed any of those pillars, those principles that you're talking about. And if I could take us back to the first one, because you quite rightly, in my view, mentioned that you are starting with about being customer led. So can you just talk to us a little bit more about that principle and being customer led?
Yeah, it's key, and that's why it's number 1 for us. Is customer led. We have a digital user experience manager, and that's a new role that we've just recently gone through a restructure to get. And luckily, the person that's being put in the role is amazing at this, in the sense that she leads stuff with data and what people want. So she doesn't presume that they want a fancy website. She asks people, what do you want from your local council? Is it just that you want your bins collected and you want it to be collected on time all the time, or are you interested in more of the fancy stuff? I mean, so it's good for us to focus and basically make decisions based on what our customers actually want. And that's a key transition for us away from kind of where customers... Sorry, that's a key transition for us, because our customers can't choose what council they go to for their services. So we want to be the council of choice. Even though there isn't a choice, we still want to give that customer experience that they want to use us.
That's a really great point, and something which, in speaking with some other colleagues, I've kind of reminded them of that, which is local authorities, it's a captive industry, as it were. You cannot go anywhere else for those services. So is there a risk there that people could be complacent about delivering them? No, there can't be. As you've just intimated and explained, there is absolutely the need and the desire to make sure that that the citizen experience is as good as it can be, because there's no reason why it shouldn't be. So that's really great and encouraging to hear that. So thank you. And in terms of the bin aspect, I must admit, one of the things that I think you could look at in the future is maybe an Alexa or a Google Home skill, so that I can just ask Alexa, what week is it for bins? And then she'll be able to kind of tell me. Now, putting that aside, one of the other aspects that you mentioned was around delivering value for money, which I'm sure that all citizens will be really pleased to hear about. And one of the things that I think really kind of, well, in some respects the clue is in the title, because you talked about being able to reuse and improve. So could you just take us through what you've been doing in that area as well?
In terms of value for money, we scrutinise every penny. As a council, we don't have a large amount of wealth. We are a poor council, and and we try to do our best. So we give our best customer service with the money that we have. But in terms of that, and one of the reasons why our principles are reuse and improve, is about us making sure that we use our technology to its best ability, and we reuse it and we improve our processes using that technology. We're a big believer on the technology working for us, not against us. And I think there's good case in points where we've we've been able to do that. So in terms of Google, we've replaced quite a lot of smaller systems such as land charges and asset management with Google Sheets, with scripts that we've built in-house. And what that's done is given our customers the familiarity of that, and our staff the familiar interface of Google. But also we've saved a lot of money by not having these individual systems. This isn't to say that, you know, we don't stick with a bad system because we want to reuse and improve it. We will always look at the market and find a technology that's fit for the council. So, for example, our current telephony replacement, the current system isn't fit for purpose, and it has held us back quite a lot from delivering what our customers need. So in terms of that, what we've actually done is moved over to RingCentral, and in the long run we're actually saving money now. So we're actually saving more money now that we've moved to a fully cloud-based system than what we have done by just staying with our on-premise legacy system.
Okay, so from our aspect, that's great to hear that we're helping you to reduce cost. But and I'll ask a difficult question here, which is, well, how are we aligning with that reuse and improve principle then?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, well, obviously it's a new technology, so I can't say we reuse the technology we had because we are replacing a technology with a new one. However, improvement, what a massive improvement we've got by going to RingCentral. You know, it's going to improve the way we communicate with our customers, and it's going to give that reliability and the strength and that backbone of the council, which is always telephony. I think in terms of the reuse part, there is other parts to the telephony RingCentral system that we're definitely going to be using. You know, RingCentral is not a one-trick pony. It does amazing instant messaging. It does great video conferencing. You know, and you can share documents and you can call people. You know, it's not just a one solution. So we're definitely going to be reusing those parts. At the start, it will be just telephony because we do stuff in agile chunks, but we'll roll out telephony. We'll get people used to that platform. We'll get people doing it, and we'll get the early adopters start using instant messaging. They'll start using video. They'll start doing a bit more of those things in RingCentral. And then what we'll do is we'll encourage that more, and we'll see where we've got a place for that inside our council, whether that's internal staff using it or us using it to communicate with our customers.
Well, that's obviously kind of great to hear. Something that you mentioned in a couple of the bits of the conversation we've had so far is around cloud first. And for people who've followed local government sector, they'll kind of appreciate that almost mandate, that strategy of cloud first, is something that's been around certainly for at least, well, actually it was first published in 2013. But one of the things I'd really like to understand is, you know, where has that been, or where's that fitted into the Thanet strategy? You know, how have you been able to to deliver on it? So, in practicalities, what does that actually mean for Thanet?
Yeah, and the whole concept of cloud, the whole word cloud, it means so much to so many different people. For some people, cloud means, you know, for technicians and maybe digital people, cloud means moving this set of data or this server to someone else's data center, to someone else's server room. For us, that's not what we mean by cloud first. For us, that is kind of one part of cloud or our cloud migration. Our main things for cloud and cloud first must be that it's SaaS, so it's software as a service. So that's you know, all in the cloud. There's no installing part of it on our estate or our server room, half of it on the machines. It has to be fully in the cloud. It has to be accessible via a web browser. Must integrate with our single sign-on cloud solution, which is Okta. It must be secure. It must be built on sustainable and good technology. So sorry, Microsoft Silverlight, it's gone. Sorry. And digital accessible. So for everyone again. So digital is for everyone. So any system that we buy must be digitally accessible, and that's from a technical point of view. The HTML code and the way we present it must be accessible to people, but also it must be usable and easy and friendly for everyone to use.
That's great to hear. And in terms of adopting those cloud services, one of the things that, and you and I have had the chance to speak a couple of times, you talked about some of the changes that you've been able to make, particularly during the pandemic. And one of the things that I'd like just to so, and admittedly, this is a bit of a leading question, but can you just talk to me about actually what you've been doing around council meetings and making sure that you can continue to do the business of local government?
So I think there's a few things that's changed, and there's kind of two aspects to it that have changed. The first part is internal communications. So I think we went from us physically having meetings, and there is actually a good slow down break measure, in the sense that to book a meeting for 12 people, you have to make sure their calendar's available. You have to make sure that you've got a room for them to actually sit in, and logistically be able to get to that room as well. So if they're on their lunch break, you don't book a meeting straight away in case they can't get to it. So it kind of took 2 or 3 weeks to get a project meeting together so that you could all sit round a table and kind of go through it. Whereas now, with video conferencing and being able to work remotely, where you can book a meeting the next day for 12 people for a half an hour meeting, and everyone can join because there's not as much logistics. So that's great. Also, there's a thing where we are maybe always on a meeting that we can't then actually do the work that we've been set in the meeting. So there's definitely some balance there that we're trying to address as a council. The second approach, which is quite good, is our council meetings. So we have public meetings, and we have to, by law, be open, transparent, and give the public access to those meetings. So the way we did it before was we had a public gallery, and people would physically come into the gallery, and they would be able to see the meetings, in 3D, in real life, yeah, and actually meet people, which is a surprise in COVID now. So now we're all doing it digitally online. We have to stream that to a public service. So we stream that to YouTube. And I know other councils have. And it's become quite popular. Ours particularly have become quite popular. And I hope it's because people really love the local politics, and they really want to understand how councils run. Or they're maybe just watching it for the Jackie Weaver viral bit. Yeah, I think mainly our meetings are kind of chaired quite well, and we don't have that. Ours are probably pretty boring in comparison.
Joe, just staying with that last point around council meetings, one of the things I'd be interested to get your kind of quick view on is whether, when we get kind of post-pandemic, there'll still be the appetite to actually do those meetings remotely, because I appreciate that right now there's legislative almost kind of exception to be able to kind of do these meetings virtually, and that if we want to continue to do that in the future, there would have to be some again further kind of legal changes to allow that. But that aside, do you think there's really the interest and the appetite to continue with those virtual public meetings?
Having spoken to the Democratic Services team who manage that, I think we have kind of a split of some councillors and members wanting to come back into physical meetings because that's how they interact, and they like to physically see people to interact with them rather than digitally, and that makes perfect sense. But there is a big proportion of people that actually still think digital methods are way more convenient and will actually enable them to come to more meetings. So I think we're going to be probably hybrid, and as long as the legislation allows for it, will be in the council chamber, but also available via Google or RingCentral video conferencing. I think also what is definitely staying, and our leader has said that, is regardless of whatever location we're in, we will be streaming to a public site like YouTube so that anyone can see our meetings.
So, in addition to the various examples that you've mentioned, I know that there's also been a substantial level of transformation that you've achieved, and sadly, we don't have the time to get into all of that today. But I'd like to focus on the communications aspect for a couple of minutes and understand how how that's going to support further transformation within the council.
Our big transformation that's happening right now is basically we're replacing our legacy on-premise telephony system with RingCentral. And, this is something that we saw as an improvement that is needed for quite a while, but we really pushed for it now because I think, we're in this situation where people can work from home more, and actually people's preferences to work home more, we need that tool that will give us that reliability and the ability to work kind of anywhere. Our traditional on-premise one doesn't really give us that flexibility, so we've really kind of pushed for it.
So that's a great scene setting. Are there any particular aspects that you're looking at that you think, actually, I know that's going to make a big impact?
I think the kind of key thing for us that RingCentral brings so much benefits, and we've kind of mentioned them before, but for us, something that has been really key driver of this is the analytical side of it, and the how we can use intelligence and our data and our stats to be able to kind of work more efficiently. So for example, we want to make sure that we understand, what's our busiest times, and it's really simple because a lot of companies have been doing it for years, and I know the private sector and public sector have been doing it for years, but for us it wasn't possible. So we want this sort of like real-time analysis of, right, Monday morning it's really busy for planning, for example, and then we can sort of shift that around and make sure that planning have the right resource. And also as part of that, we get this great feature of, the planning managers and the key users would be able to add people into the group themselves without speaking to ICT or digital, so that they can increase who's in that call group, who's getting calls, and they can deal with the demand. And then as it quietens down, they can remove people and then just leave it with the core people as they normally would. So it's that sort of real intelligence that we're really missing at the moment.
That's good to hear. And I think a point that you mentioned there, which is really salient, is that some of this isn't new, and organisations have been doing it for a while. But in your environment, it is new, and it is going to lead to a transformation. Joe, I'm kind of mindful of time and where we're up to. So what I do want to say is, firstly, many thanks for providing us with a great insight into the work that you and the team have been doing at Thanet, and maybe also kind of dispelling any of the myths or preconceptions that people may have that local government is unable to undergo transformation. So thank you very much for joining us at Connect Online, Joe.